And the very best of Monty Python's Flying Circus is now available from the BBC Radio Collection.
The horror, the terror, the tyranny, or was it? As the archive files open, the facts tell of a very different Spanish Inquisition.
In fact, the Inquisition uses torture very infrequently. Out of over 7,000 cases, only 2% experienced any torture at all.
I'm prepared to tell you absolutely anything.
Time Watch, the myth of the Spanish Inquisition. Next Sunday, 9:50, BBC2.
It sees everything. It hears everything. He created it. But who controls it?
Could you have done it?
Of course. I designed the system.
Going down. It's out of control.
Program executed.
Welcome to the machine. The X-Files, Thursday at 9 o'clock on BBC2.
Our Bard on the Box season continues now on BBC2. In 50 minutes, in our film premiere, Mel Gibson is Hamlet. In the meantime, a look at how a gathering of other actors have approached playing the Dane.
What Hamlet gives to an actor, I think, and I've played him twice, is a terrible headache, actually.
Hamlet's like a kind of bar mitzvah, if you like. Unless you've been there, you feel that you haven't been bar mitzvahed. You'll feel slightly inadequate as an actor.
You shouldn't judge an actor by his success or otherwise in Hamlet. Perhaps I feel that strongly because nobody thought my Hamlet was particularly good, or not many people anyway, except the audiences who were terribly responsive.
I guess I'd seen a few other Hamlets, but I never thought that mine would be anything like theirs, and in fact that's true. For better or worse, my Hamlets were a lot like me.
I wanted to say those words, I wanted to feel those feelings and have those thoughts. To be or not to be. That is the question.
Alas. Poor Yori.
I knew Emery, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy.
Frailty, thy name is woman.
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.
Hamlet's Prince of Denmark, and his father dies, the King of Denmark, apparently from natural causes. Hamlet is grief-stricken. His mother marries his uncle, the new King of Denmark, within 2 months, which annihilates him completely emotionally. It's a terrible thing to have done.
And now, our cousin Hamlet, and our son. How is it that the clouds still hang on you?
His father has died, and his mother rather quickly is married again. And he's deeply upset, and he's the only person in court apparently who is. So he's isolated when you meet him.
If it be, why seems it so particular with thee?
Seems, madam. Nay, it is, I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, together with all forms, modes, shows of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passeth show, these but the trappings and the suits of woe.
He has these extraordinary, wonderful pronunciatos to make about life, about the world. He also criticizes the world about him and blames a lot of his state upon the world. So you've got to be awfully careful not to turn the poor sod into a whiner. Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh, God. Oh, God. How weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. It could easily be read how weary, stale, and he would be then again criticizing, but it's not that, I don't think. I think it's how weary, stale, how extraordinarily, what an extraordinary thing it is that it is weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable. All the uses of this world, to me, I don't mean the world, but just to me, it seems that way now.
Seems, madam. Nay, it is. I know not seems. 'Tis not alone my inky cloak, good mother, nor customary suits of solemn black, no, nor the fruitful river in the eye, nor the dejected haviour in the visage, together with all forms, modes, shapes of grief that can denote me truly. These indeed seem, for they are actions that a man might play. But I have that within which passeth show. These but the trappings and the suits of woe.
What the text tells you, in the what Hamlet says, he's in a state of such grief and distraction that he can barely speak. He's in this terrible state. How active and how dramatic that is, that's the challenge for the actor.
Oh, God. God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fie on it. Oh, fie. Okay, cut. He's a clown, he's a satirist, he's a philosopher, he's a wit, he's a man of action, and yet he's a man of contemplation. He is, in a way, unreal.
You're never ready to play Hamlet. You see, when you're ready to play him, you're too old. It's like Peggy Ashcroft said about Juliet. Now I'm 50, I could play her. It's like Hamlet. I mean, I can't play him. I'm too old now. But in my psyche, I'm ready.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter.
I think it is very difficult to treat it as just another play and just another role, simply by the fact that people will look at you with a kind of, when you say, oh, I'm playing, and what are you playing? Oh, Hamlet. He's hyper-resonant on the left side. Certainly, yes, lots of people know me from Casualty. No, there's no breath sounds on the left side. Right. We better do needle thoracocentesis.
Upon whose property and most dear life a damned defeat was made? Am I a coward?
I don't and won't know whether Hamlet is a good career move or a good marker for a career move until after I've done it. The sheer size of it and the gravity and the change of the emotions, all the rest of it, means that you will always refer to that as the big challenge.
And lack gall to make oppression bitter or ere this, I should have fatted all the region kites with this, slaves, offal, bloody, bawdy villain!
In terms of watching other people, I've never seen it, funnily enough. Apart from watching backstage. I don't know whether it's just been luck or misfortune, or whether this is a romantic notion that I always had in the back of my head that I would play the Dane, and so I didn't want to see anybody else's production. I think that that's rubbish, but still, I haven't. No, I saw the film. I saw Mel Gibson.
Would I had met my dearest foe in heaven, or ever I had seen that day, Horatio. My father. He thinks I see my father.
I saw him once. He was a goodly king.
He was a man, take it all in all. I shall not look upon his like again.
My lord. I think I saw him yesternight.
Saw? Who?
My lord, the king, your father.
People say that Hamlet's the highest peak that an actor can achieve. If you think that you're capable of achieving those highest peaks, then I suppose you must aspire to playing Hamlet. I suppose I would have secretly hoped as much as anybody else, but I don't think that I ever really, I don't think it would have broken my heart if I'd never played it.
My lord, it comes!
Angels and ministers of grace, defend us.
The ghost of his father arrives and speaks to him, telling him that, in fact, his uncle had murdered him for the crown. So then he's in the position of being asked by the ghost of his father to revenge his murder and kill his uncle. And this he finds extremely difficult to do.
But know thou, noble youth, the serpent that did sting my father's life now wears his crown.
Oh, my prophetic soul. My uncle.
To take on Hamlet is numbing because of the history that comes with it. The ghosts of the past are very, very close.
It's other people's expectations which weigh heavily upon you. The man who bounced into my dressing room here at the Cambridge Theatre and said, "Congratulations, you're my 68th Hamlet." And I remember everything about something about every one of them. For instance, when Maurice Evans played it, he had a little hole in his tights right here. I wonder what he remembers about mine. We didn't have a ghost. We had a mirrored set. And an image of a ghost that was repeated, I think, up to 20 times. And Hamlet was surrounded by this almost drug-induced image. The director, rather naughtily, and I shall always be grateful to him, introduced me to marijuana as part of the rehearsal process to hallucinate. It didn't quite work, but this was, of course, the early 70s when such things were rather modish, and I was dressed in a costume that a young audience hopefully would identify with. It looks very old-fashioned now, but at the time it was meant to look quite modern.
I played Hamlet when I was 22, having just left RADA, and so it was, to say the least, it was, I think, a little rough. I was very, very fast. I spoke very, very fast indeed, and I was very highly strung in those days, still am a bit. And so I was not the best Hamlet, but Darlington in the Telegraph, who was a famous critic at that time, said that last night Richard Browse played Hamlet like a demented typewriter. And in fact, I took about 43, 45 minutes off the play. So although I made the best Hamlet, I was the fastest, and I think I probably still am the fastest.
I was working with Robert Walker at the Royal Court Theatre, and he was also running the Half Moon Theatre and wanting to do Hamlet. He didn't feel, for him, that there was a male actor of a certain age who he wanted to play Hamlet with, direct it with. And he wanted to work with me as an actor. It can't be an accident that throughout history, Hamlet has been played by women at various stages. And I think it is because it is such a universal youth, expressing all the emotions of youth and of life. And there isn't another part to match it.
I had seen maybe, I would say, more than a dozen Hamlets over the 20 years of my theater-going life, and I had not seen one that made particular sense to me. I certainly learned why it's a part that cries out to be played not once, but twice and 3 times, because at every turn it reveals the fact that it is bigger than you are. And at every turn it reveals that sort of in peeling the endless onion, that as you peel away a layer, there's a whole world that reveals itself. And under that, there's a whole other world, and it just keeps going until you think you'll go mad.
Hamlet isn't just a kind of a one-man show, but he's very often seen as a one-man show. All we're seeing is another actor with a different voice, this one's got a rather beautiful profile, this one has a rather fascinating voice, this one has a very idiosyncratic style, this one will do it in a dustbin, this one will jump into a kind of a bath. So I wanted the actors to be the environment and to be the set, and that Hamlet is an entire production, not just a one-man show with accompanying acts.
The players come, and that's the next really significant event that occurs to Hamlet. The players come in, and he knows that the moment, this is it.
My lord, will you see the players well bestowed?
Here was a man who was a huge fan of the actors. And, you know, both as the character, but also as the actor, it was the first place in the evening that you actually got to just sit and appreciate someone else's contribution, if you will.
Unless things mortal move them not at all, would have made milk the burning eyes of heaven, and passion in the gods. Look, whether he hath not turned his colour and hath tears in his eyes. Pray you no more.
He chides himself after seeing the players for not having acted sooner. In a way, they've inspired him.
Is it not monstrous that this player here, but in a fiction, in a dream of passion, could force his soul so to his own conceit that from her working all his visage wan? Tears in his eyes, distraction in his aspect, a broken voice, and his whole function suiting with forms to his conceit. And all for nothing. For Hecuba. What's Hecuba to him, or he to Hecuba, that he should weep for her? What would he do, had he the motive and cue for passion that I have? He would drown the stage with tears, and cleave the general ear with horrid speech.
What I underestimated was the great gift of the part, which is the soliloquies, which are not personal reflections, I don't think, of inner thought, but rather our direct communication with the audience. And the way we dealt with that was that when a soliloquy happened, the other actors didn't leave the stage. The lights went down and they froze behind me as a light came up strongly on my face and figure, and I spoke directly to the audience.
Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, thaw and resolve itself into a dew. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter.
Thus, conscience doth make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with a pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
'Tis now the very witching time of night, when churchyards yawn and hell itself breathes out contagion to this world. Now could I drink hot blood.
When I was doing To Be or Not to Be, I was aware that below me on the front row here in the Cambridge Theatre, there was somebody following the text with a torch, which was a bit faulty, and I think her battery gave way, and then she caught the light from the stage onto her own text and was following it with me. And so I just had time at the end to deal with this distraction by ending the speech with an extra line of and lose the name of action. Would you mind putting that text away, please? Which she did, and I didn't see it again.
Yes, the sing-along of Hamlet. It is something that I've thought about, the idea that you go into To Be or Not to Be with a chorus of 900 people joining in with you.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and
What I always try and aim for is that is the line that has to come out. There can't be another line that the character could say. There isn't an alternative line to Be or Not to Be. And the moment that you think, oh shit, it's the To Be or Not to Be, but you're no longer Hamlet anyway, and so there's no point in standing on the stage.
There's no way around it. There is absolutely no way around it. The first time I played Hamlet, I had to deal with that reality more than anything else, and that is that this is a play that everybody knows, and these are very famous lines.
You walk on stage and you know that in about 10 minutes, here it comes, to be or not to be. That is the question. And everyone knows that, and everyone's saying it with you, and you've got to do it an entirely original, new and fresh way. Totally impossible, but you have to do it. You have to do it. And then you've got about 5 of those coming up, the big hurdles, and the critics are sitting back saying, now, what is Mr. Briers going to do with this? Ho, ho, ho. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune,
or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them, to die, to sleep.
And by asleep to say we end the heartaches and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished.
To die, to sleep. To sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub.
But in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause.
There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin?
I'd done a matinee, and so I'd already done the speech, and I got to the first, to die, and I said, wait a minute, I've already said that. Did I just say it, or did I say it this afternoon? Because if I've already said it once, then I must be a little further down in the speech on the, getting to the part about dreaming, and there's the rub. And I just dried. I just stopped and thought, oh, God, I'm up. What do I do now? Well, let's assume I've already said it. So I went on, and it was and in fact, and then I got about 3 more lines ahead. And then I thought, no, I hadn't said, no, that was this afternoon, you idiot. Oh, well, who cares? They've heard it. Go on.
The soliloquies were not my favorite speeches in the play. I preferred the extraordinary speech about life. What a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? To me, that says it all.
People would give me books, particularly the first time I played it, and things to read, and it was all very interesting. And yet I never found it applied much to me. the issue, for instance, of Hamlet's hesitation, I never really understood that. And I don't think I bothered with it when I played the part. Somebody took something from him. I mean, somebody has done him wrong, and he feels very upset about it. It never struck me as any particular equivocating with yourself about that, wondering what to do. It seemed to me somebody really did him wrong, and that he was quite right to be upset.
He's looking forward to the play. That is the next big event. In order to find out the truth, he will concoct through this fiction, through this play. He'll get to the core of the king's guilt. And it will be public, and he will then have grounds for doing what he must do.
I have heard that guilty creatures sitting at a play have, by the very cunning of the scene, been struck so to the soul that presently they have proclaimed their malefactions. I'll have these players play something like the murder of my father before mine uncle. I'll observe his looks. I'll tempt him to the quick. If he do blench, I know my course.
The spirit that I have seen may be a devil. The devil hath power to assume a pleasing shape. Yea, and perhaps out of my weakness and my melancholy, as he is very potent with such spirits, abuses me to damn me. I'll have grounds more relative than this. The play's the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.
This play is the image of a murder done in Vienna. Gonzago is the Duke's name, his wife Baptista.
I was, at that time, a youngish or so actor. I was about 25. And I heard that BBC were looking for, you know, small parts. I had an opportunity then to see the actor playing Hamlet was Christopher Plummer. He would use his hands like a dancer, and we just would say, thrift, Horatio, the funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. It was a thrift, Horatio, like somebody's making, you know.
Thrift, Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables.
First time around when you play it, I think you're a little overawed by the huge responsibility you have in playing the Dane. And so you kind of are afraid perhaps to be too confident in the comic end of it. Second time around, you're not quite so awed about the hugeness of the role, so I immediately sunk my teeth into as much comedy as I could get out of it. There's tons of it in Hamlet.
Me to you. You're welcome. Hey, good my lord, this courtesy is not of the right breed.
There is broad comedy, and there is wonderful, refined wit, wonderful self-mockery.
Sir, I cannot. What, my lord? Make you a wholesome answer. My wit's diseased.
That's what makes you love him, if you're going to love him at all. Because he's not an easy character. He's not a sympathetic character.
The people who are extremely articulate and bright can sometimes be very dangerous, you know, with humor. To suffer an attack by somebody who really knows how to do it can be very painful. And I think Hamlet uses his mind and his ability with words in scathing ways.
What is the matter? Between whom? I mean, the matter that you read, my lord. Slander, sir. For the satirical rogue says here that old men have grey beards, that their faces are wrinkled, their eyes purging thick amber and plum tree gum, that they have a plentiful lack of wit, together with most weak hams. All which, sir, though I most powerfully and potently believe, Yet I hold it not honesty to have it thus set down.
I didn't play the humour very much. And I don't know whether I was frightened of it or whether it's because I thought it was a major tragedy, because it was this great part. It's only looking back and seeing other productions of Hamlet that I realised how much humour there is. It was there, but if anything, I fought against it.
You know me, my lord? Excellent, well. You are a fishmonger.
Not I, my lord. Then I would you were so honest a man.
Honest, my lord?
Aye, sir, to be honest as this world goes is to be one man picked out of 10,000.
That's very true, my lord.
For if the sun breed maggots in a dead dog, being a good kissing carrion...
Is he feigning madness? Is he not feigning madness? Is a big question. The first time I played Hamlet, it was clearly feigning madness. The second time I played it, he was borderline mad, I'd say, on several occasions throughout the story.
He is not mad. He is terribly, terribly sane. And that is his tragedy, that he is sane. He feigns madness and makes it very funny.
Mother!
You'll be round with him.
Tell me not.
Now, Mother, what's the matter?
Hamlet, thou hast thy father much offended.
Mother, you have my father much offended.
Oh, come, come. You answer with an idle tongue.
Go, go. You question with a wicked tongue.
How now, Hamlet?
What's the matter now?
Have you forgotten me?
No, by the rule, not so. You are the queen, your husband's brother's wife. And would it were not so, you are my mother.
Nay, then I'll set those to you that can.
Come and sit you down. You shall not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass where you may see the inmost part of you.
Thou wilt not murder me. Help! 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 Help!
Now, rat! Dig for a ducat!
He has this big confrontation with his mother and, of course, kills Polonius. That's a fairly significant event, because now the role that the monster that he's attempting to become in order to enact this vengeance is starting to manifest itself in a kind of arbitrary way. He's like, killed a man.
Leave wringing of your hands. Please sit you down and let me wring your heart.
So I shall, if it be made of penetrable stuff, the damned custom have not brassed it so that it is proof and bulwark against sense.
What have I done?
I think you can't help but allow whatever's happening on stage to influence your understanding of your life, and I think that emotionally it certainly affects you. And they're your primal relationships, and that's why it's such an extraordinary play, because it's dealing with primal relationships.
Heaven's face doth glow. Yea, this solidity and compound mass with trispal visage as against the doom is thought sick at the act.
I mean, what act that roars so loud and thunders in the index?
Look here upon this picture, and on this, the counterfeit presentment of two brothers. See what a grace is seated on this brow. Hyperion's curls, the front of Jove himself, an eye like Mars to threaten or command, a station like the herald Mercury, new lighted on a heaven-kissing hill, a combination and a form indeed, where every god did seem to set his seal to give the world assurance of a man. This was your husband. Look you now what follows. Here is your husband, like a mildewed ear, blasting his wholesome brother. Have you eyes? Could you on this fair mountain leave to feed and batten on this moor? Ah! Have you eyes?
You can't help but, whether consciously or unconsciously, investigate your own relationship with your parents and Hamlet's relationship with women, which is obviously troubled.
You cannot call it love, for at your age the heyday in the blood is thin, it's humble, and waits upon the judgment. And what judgment would step from this to this?
From a personal point of view, my parents split up, and I think I was 21, 22. They split up, and my mother got into another relationship, and I even found then, and they're nothing like Claudius and Gertrude at all, but I still found almost like it was instinctive to react to somebody stepping in what is essentially your father's place, even though intellectually it made sense to me, and as an adult it was fine, but there was still this bizarre and unfair in many ways. Betrayal is too strong a word for my own personal situation, but putting that into the Hamlet situation, that's what it is.
I think it was Hobson who said that the incestuous bed was at the center of my performance. I couldn't believe the circumstances. I thought it was monstrous. And I was very rough on my mother, I think. I mean, physically rough. I guess I was angry at that time. My mother had been killed savagely in a car accident in 1959. And I was very angry about that, because my son, when she was killed, was only 3 months old. And there was anger. It was interesting. There was anger in me, and I think that came through. I felt cheated. I felt my mother had been cheated. But the rage of that, I think, came through in how it was.
The more violent the scene became, the better it became, as long as the violence was isolated and contained right toward the end of the scene. If it got too hot and heavy too fast, too soon, you have no place to go. And you come on to that scene so keyed up and so wanting to just tear her head off that a lot of times I found myself in that position. I had made the mistake of too much too soon.
Since I had the actors on stage, I already had Claudius on one side, on a chair, and the ghost. So I had the king stand there as if he was a painting in the room. So he merely got up from his chair, stood there. So I said, I tore up to the Claudius, and I said, look here upon this picture on this. And I showed then the king, the ghost of the last king. And I say, look you now what follows. I tore across the stage, sliding across the stage to Claudius. And all I went was, and then I did the lines after that. I vomited onto the painting. You know, got excited. So even thinking about it now, I'm getting a little touch. I think I'll do it now. I'll bat on this more. You cannot call it. Oh, it's disgusting. Mothers don't have vaginas. Here's a horrible feeling, as young men do, that their mothers have genital organs. It's ghastly. He couldn't bear it. And eventually, all this is like a kind of foreplay, you know? And as I'm doing this, I'm actually climbing on top of my mum. Somehow, I'm not really deliberately climbing on top. I just have my knees over her, as if to hold her down from screaming and going for help. But as I'm holding her down, I find myself getting closer and closer to her. And then, when I say when two crafts directly meet, suddenly the words become a rather apt, what I could say, symbol for what I'm doing. And as I'm saying that, I'm crushing my mother. I'm on top of her. I have somehow pulled away all restraint, all those terrible taboos about mother, incest, sex. It all came out. It all came flooding out.
Hamlet, speak no more. Thou turnst mine eyes into my very soul. And there I see such black and greyish spots as will not leave their tints.
Nay, but in the ranks sweat of an enseaming bed, stewed in corrupted honeying and making love over the nasty style.
Speak to me no more. These words like daggers enter.
He is then banished to England, really, because he's behaving completely out of order. There he finds that Claudius is plotting his death. He avenges those killers. He finds he's in a world of wars now.
There were times when I used to move into the third movement, kind of return from England, and I used to feel absolutely as though I was in a serene space. Because if you've won the audience by then, you really should win them at the end of the first movement when you say, "O cursed spy, the devil I was born to set this right." You should touch them then. But you should have captured them by the end of the second movement for the return from England. And then you glide on a most wonderful plateau of serenity right through to the end, with one or two little hiccups. But Hamlet is on a line. He's found himself. And that's very beautiful for an actor to feel.
He will never be the same Hamlet he was before he killed Polonius. He goes to England, he kills his two old friends. Granted, they were there to kill him, but he arranges very deftly to have them killed. So now he has the blood of 3 people on his hands. And in a way, he's now, sadly, ironically, ready to be a king.
This same skull, sir, was Yorick's skull, the king's jester. This. In that. Let me see.
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio. A fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times.
That skull, you can do so much with it. I mean, it used to, the smell of the, putting and scaring Horatio with it, sticking it in his face and doing all of it. And then suddenly, when he realizes who Yorick is, I mean, the idea that he was a friend and he's gone, and it becomes very close. So there's a wide range of emotions that you're playing with a human skull.
Those lips which I have kissed, I know not how often. Where be your gibes now? Your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roar. Not one now to mock your own grinning.
Quite chop-fallen. Now get you to my lady's chamber and tell her let her paint an inch thick to this favor. She must come. Make her laugh at that.
The problem when you play it when you're very young, as I did, and your armory isn't exactly a full one, is that by the time you go to England, by which time you've been on the stage for about 3 hours, you have 40 minutes off and you think they've now seen every expression, heard every note in my voice. I've run the gamut of emotions, in my case in those days, probably from A to B, but I've shot my boat, as it were. What the hell do I do now when I come back? I've then got the death of Ophelia. I've got the battle with the Laertes, the duel, and the death scene. And that is the most daunting thing of all. You think, I really have got nothing left to show the audience, nothing fresh, nothing new that I can bring to it. So it requires an enormous amount of desperation, which they got in my Hamlet. I was a very desperate Hamlet indeed.
Physically, it is absolutely shattering. I came to the part straight from another emotionally and physically shattering piece. So I kind of got off on the wrong foot with it in a way. I was pretty shattered before I started. But I think even if you came at it fully fit, it would take it out of you.
Well, it's really a great answer to the question, what's Hamlet about? It's about 4 hours. I was always exhausted after the show. nobody asks you to sing, you know, Aida every night or 8 times a week. But in America, if you you'll often be asked to play Hamlet 8 times, and you're ready for a sanitarium at the end of it.
I remember the last performance, the last run I did. I just, I couldn't stop crying. I felt this poignant, I don't know if it was a loss of, that I was losing him, but I felt so sorry for him. I felt this, it sounds really corny, and I don't think that's the stuff that real tragedy is made of. I just felt bad for him.
I remember on the last night, I could hardly get the words out because I couldn't believe that I was never, ever, ever going to say those lines again. In the context of the play, I could read it, but it was really heartbreaking. It's the richest thing you could ever imagine doing, ever, on stage.
The last scene, where all the threads sort of the action of the play come together in terms of, I mean, Hamlet dies, but first he kills Claudius, and then of course he's killed. Just when in fact he's sort of, he might be actually ready now to be a good king. Physically you're exhausted, emotionally, spiritually, you're drained. The trap is that you can become very serene and terribly philosophical when you speak to Laertes before the fight. The audience is starting to look at their watch and thinking, oh, just die already, for God's sake, enough. So you want to, you have to keep the engine going as he hurtles towards his destiny.
Judgment. A hit, a very palpable hit.
Our first student performances, the students are usually too young sometimes to go to any play, let alone Hamlet, and they couldn't take it anymore, particularly when, poisoned by the tip of Laertes' sword, Hamlet says, "I am dead, Horatio," which brought down the house instantly, of course. It was